I'd like to share with the viewers that being on your show blew my mind. I mean, you gave me a memory that was so important that I haven't really thought about in so long. It's just, I guess when you're 75, you got a lot of memories. And plus, be aware all the time because there's magic happening all the time. There really
Well,
is.
it's like they say, read the room. We have to read the outdoors. We have to read what's the message for it. You can read the cloud.
Welcome to the Enchanted Earth Podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own. Welcome, everybody. Today we have with us a real treat. We have Amy Zerner and Monty Farber. They are a husband and wife team who've been working together in the field of spirituality and divination for over 40 years. Zerner is an artist and fashion designer, while Farber is a writer, psychic, and astrologer. So welcome, Amy and Monty.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Thank you for having us.
Well, I'm so excited because what I didn't share in your little upfront bio is the name of your website, The Enchanted World. So
Yes.
while we have such a big connection with our two kind of projects, mine being this podcast and the book, and your being your overarching theme of what the two of you do together. So can you just share a little bit about how that name came up for you?
Well, when we did the tarot, Amy was the first person to say, let's put a ritual for every card.
This was in 1989. We came up with the Enchanted World.
Right. And then we came up, and then we thought, well, let's call it the Enchanted Tarot. And because the word, as you well know, the word enchanted means to sing into someone, to sing and to enchant them, is to sing your song into them.
Put your intention into whatever you're trying to manifest or trying to create. And it really fits with what we do with the art and the writing and all the creative processes that we go through. We try to enchant the world.
And the Enchanted Tarot was the OG version. Amy is the godmother of all the cards and oracle decks you see that have enchantments with them or on the cards. That's all Amy. And so we're all part of the same movement, you and us, and everyone who's trying to make the world more of an enchanted place to live, because
which we need more than ever.
Right. We're trying to get back to that feeling you had when you were a kid and you saw a story read to you by somebody.
Or looked at the stars in the sky, that we're little, but we're connected to nature and to the world and to the universe. And we like to have a higher perspective like that. And I think everyone's so jaded now.
Yes.
They're so mistrustful of the news, of the governments, of each other. You know, what we've gone through, the pandemic and all the information that we're bombarded with every day. So how do you stay enchanted? You have to have a grounding, which we do, which, you know, we'd love to talk to you about all the different ways to ground ourselves in nature, to be cognizant of the cycles of nature. How do you stay grounded and not let all this information, bowl you over or throw you off your center?
Right. You got to
So a
remember.
lot of our work is all about that, to try to be present, to try to be mindful of what you're doing right now with relationships, with your work, with your wellness routine.
And we love your focus on nature, on getting outside, because that's how you reestablish your connection.
Yeah, so such an important point to bring up, especially now. I mean, things are more chaotic, feel more chaotic than ever before on this planet. And it's so important to ground ourselves. So I would love for you guys to share some tips on kind of coming back to our center.
We like to take it aside. We want to fly like the eagle, the highest flying bird. And And I always come back to Einstein. We're all energy, we're all connected, and it all flows back from that. We are connected to the universe, whether we think we are or not. And for those who have a medical condition where they can't get outside, the nature is in you. You are nature. We are nature. And remembering that is the first step to getting back in
And
touch.
folks too. And
Totally.
so when I met Monty, which is 50 years ago, we've been together 50 years. He was eating naturally, and he taught me about breathing. I mean, he was into all these things since 1974, and I was smoking cigarettes and maybe not having the healthiest lifestyle. We were in our early 20s. So we've always taught each other and helped each other that way to grow spiritually, mentally, and physically. And it's an ongoing process for all of us because individually, and we're astrologers too, so we like to look at our individual portraits, our individual cycles, and to do what's appropriate for us at at whatever age you are.
Yeah, we're 70. I'm going to be 75
So
and I have been eating right, trying to stay in harmony with nature.
we eat
Since
organically.
66.
Yeah, we eat organically. We don't drink. I mean, it's not hard for us. It's just a normal lifestyle for us to try to live healthy because we put a lot of energy into our work. My artwork is very complex. I work in big series. This is a tapestry behind me. So it's all bits and pieces of vintage fabrics and things I find in thrift shops and flea markets. And, it's painstaking. I work on the floor, so I have to take care of myself. We do yoga. I know you do as well. And whatever we don't go overboard on anything, but I think we have specific routines that help us stay grounded and healthy and different and herbs. Go back to nature. It's everything. Astrology is the cycles of nature. Herbs and healing remedies are all from nature.
Every one of them.
I grew up in a very small town in Pennsylvania, very pristine, rustic mountain town of 175 people. It was woods, it was mountains, it was beautiful. And, I would stand next to a deer, just looking at its face. There were animals everywhere. There were bears that came to our back door. And my mother was an artist and she drew animals all the time. So I think it was very natural to be respectful of nature and all the creatures. And I honored them also in my own artwork. My own artwork, I'm planting landscapes and dreamscapes, and just like nature, and I let it be the naturalness of nature, just intuitively. It's not too controlled, but it's the foreground and the background and night and day and earth and heaven. Those are things that remind me of what we're connected to.
And growing up in Brooklyn in the 50s, I had Prospect Park next door, and my father was a policeman in Prospect Park. At the time, you could not live in your precinct, so he was smart, and he moved next door to the park.
It's a beautiful park.
And it's a gorgeous. I don't know if anyone you've seen it. So Prospect Park is designed by the same people who did Central Park, and so plus being there and feeling so safe because all the police knew me. I used to play at the police station, and to me, nature. I had this great safety valve. Nature meant safety, and even though I'm very respectful of how you can put yourself in danger if you're not aware of your surroundings when you're in nature, especially where Amy grew up. We were walking around up where she grew up and we saw a baby bear cub, the most frightening thing you can see. If you know anything about nature, stay away if you ever see one of them. But one of the things I think since I met Amy and feel so lucky is I feel like nature loves me. And I think that's an important aspect. Our third project after Karma Cards, which is astrology, Enchanted Tarot, which Amy did 78 tapestries for, we did Goddess Guide Me, because I've always been a feminist and I always knew that life only comes from women. And we did 12 goddesses, and the goddess has survived as Mother Nature.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, so that.
And then to study the different cultures and the earth mothers and the cosmic mothers and in all the cultures, they become the same kind of universal divine feminine. But that was like in 1991, and I guess we're always a little ahead of our time, as far as trends go. But our generation, we're in our 70s, and I got into the tarot like in 1970 and astrology a little later. But we were always into Eastern religions, and
Yeah, I love
back then yoga and
I loved Yogananda.
yes,
I used to play. I was a musician, and I'm getting back into being a musician. As Pluto goes over my son, I have to resurrect something. So I'm resurrecting myself as a musician. Because you don't want to mess with Pluto. You're an astrologer, you don't want to mess with Pluto on your sun. You're getting it as an opposition to Leo, right?
Yeah.
So I had been playing music since I was a kid, and there's actually a band called The Flow. You can get our album from 1970, or it was a psychedelic band. But
Oh,
I used to play at Sri Chinmoy's restaurant in Queens, where John McLaughlin and Santana used to play because they were devotees of his. I've never been a joiner, so I was not a devotee of any guru or anything like that. But I used to play music there. One day I asked the devotees of Sri Chinmoy, I said, what's a good book to read? And he said, well, the first one that everybody here has read that started him on the path is Autobiography of a Yogi. So I read it and I loved it. And then there's that old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That was my teacher. I was ready and Amy appeared. So she's never presented herself as a teacher, but when you're looking to learn, you find your teacher.
so beautiful, because she referred to you as a teacher as well. So that is just a hallmark of a wonderful connection between the two of you.
Well, we do love each other, and we do always have respected each other. And you know that we always say this: either you grow together or you grow apart as a couple. Yeah, so we've always been growing together and committed to that kind of growth.
Now, the backdrop of your lives is East Hampton.
yes.
What a gorgeous place to live. Can you share a little bit about the nature that is around you?
It is so beautiful here. We never take it for granted.
Ever.
When we're running errands and you pass the pond with the swans and, of course, the ocean, it settles everything. And we appreciate it so much and have such gratitude for it. And people, there's a lot of local people who complain how it's changed. And I moved here in 1967 when I was 16. So, of course, I've seen changes, but where we live in our little area, which is outside of East Hampton, it's quiet and we love it so much. We've made a beautiful garden. And what's wonderful out here are that there's so many artists and writers, and being an artist and a writer, I think, it's wherever you go, if it's an art opening or at the store, you're always running into other creatives. And, that's the part I love the best. It gets a little crazy with the traffic in the summertime, but they really try to protect the environment.
Very much so.
And work hard. And the town is always buying up land if they can to keep it that way, because it can so easily, change drastically. But it's still a small town. And, it's just charming.
It's a wonderful, beautiful place. We're 35 miles out at sea. So the air is, the air is good. And like Amy said, there's a lot of wonderful people out here. We have landscaped our place, and because Amy's parents were really good at it, even though we don't have a large plot, it's just like a half acre, they planted rhododendrons on an angle. So there's like an area of our property that's like a park. We call it Zanesville, named after our late cat, Zane.
Oh,
Yeah, we cleared it, and because it used to be brambles and God knows what. We actually found a bowling ball in there. God knows how that worked. And if we are so lucky and we are grateful. That's, I think, one of the other things that ties us to nature is being grateful.
Well, so Monty always says, back to being grounded, that you can't be grateful and worry at the same time. If you're worried, you can't be grateful. And if you're grateful, you can't be worried.
Right.
You can't exist at the same time.
I
Right.
love that. That's a very it's a very simple thing to do, right? And I love those little like tricks that can shift us out of anxiety or fear-based level to elevate our emotions, to have that gratitude and love.
Yeah.
If it's not simple, we're not going to do it, right?
Yeah, it's
In our busy lives, so we need the simple tricks that you can really adapt into your life to make it a good habit.
well, gratitude is like snapping the rubber band for people with panic attacks. Snap you back into reality. They tell you to wear a rubber band on your wrist, so it helps you to get back into that. It's an expression we pray to the Almighty when we get stuck. So a lot of people. Do you want to have to be in dire straits before you remember what's real? No.
Or before you take care of yourself.
Right.
Right. So important. So
Now,
important.
that's the problem with a lot of people who have not been eating right and they get sick and then they start eating right. They expect it to happen right away. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to cleanse before you get better.
Well, we live in a society that wants a quick fix with everything. An astrologer tell you what's the rest of your life is going to be,
Or feng shui practitioner coming in and rearranging your home and magically everything is perfect.
yeah, it's going to make a lot of money tomorrow.
Yeah, really. Where is that person? Let's hire it. No, it's a process. It's a practice. All those words apply. But like you said, knowing those tricks, because if it was a child, you try and trick the child out of driving itself crazy. That's what mothers and fathers do, good ones.
Because it's all an illusion, what we're worried about. It's something that hasn't happened yet. So if you can pull yourself back to now, to what is real right now in the present, it's so effective.
And that is where nature can really, really help, right? When we're really present, and even if we're indoors and we look outside and see, oh, the beautiful rain, which we're finally getting on Long Island, like we've had so many months of drought, and the wildlife is happy, the trees are happy, the soil is happy, our water reservoirs are happy, right? It's just a matter of being in the moment and seeing some beautiful nature.
That's so true. And even if you're in an apartment building, which I grew up in, you can put a bird feeder on your window sill.
Have plants.
Yeah, or plants, and that's it. It's you are there. You're with nature, and birds are amazing. We feed the birds. That's we'd rather watch our bird feeder than go to the beach
Or in the movies. But animals teach us so much, and our cat lived to be 20 years, and we just watched him, so fascinated with everything he did all the time. And they really teach you about feng shui, right? How they orient themselves, and they know all that energy for sure.
You'll never see a cat sitting with their back to the door. Did you just vote? It's not going to happen. No, and we never tried to impose ourselves on our cat. When he was little, we noticed he didn't like being picked up. We didn't pick him up. And anytime you'd pick him up, he'd put his hand right on your throat, which is so as if to say, I'm a cat, don't do anything weird.
Well, they teach you that confidence, right?
Yeah. and it's an honor to live with an animal. I think people who love their pets, I think that's one of the nicest things that you see on Facebook is
yes, the love people have for their animals.
It's just wonderful. It's all about nature. Nature is it.
I was just going to say, like, we kind of forget that our fur babies are part of wildlife.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of forget that,
But Zane didn't let us forget because
he was an outdoor.
He had a cat door. And when he went out, it was like the marshals in town. They all cleared out because, because cats are apex predators. They might be little, yes, but out here we have hawks. So he had to be careful of the hawks. One time he actually took a hawk on. I've seen him, he attacked raccoons. That's the other thing about nature. is they teach you, yes, it's a struggle, but if you're with awareness, you can get by.
And plus you have to have boundaries. I mean, they know naturally what sometimes we have to learn about territory and boundaries and, respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as grounding in nature is I think, one of the best ways for people who've been through traumatic experiences to they have equine therapy and all these, where you get back to nature and you get back in touch with the animals and the plants, because people can be crazy.
You know what I love, and you probably do too, the Bach flower remedies,
Yeah.
because they're for plants and flowers, and going back to if we have excessive worry and everyone's so anxious now, I love the basic rescue remedy. It's helped me many times in my life, but I just love that it's from nature. They're essences, flower essences, and it's just amazing how powerful they are.
People experimented
Or
with
just
nature.
aspirin. There's an
Yeah,
herbal
from
a precursor
from
for
bark,
white willow.
white willow bark, and to not think that you're separate from nature, because a lot of your mental image and your self-talk is a very important thing, and trying to remember that you're part of nature is important.
And we love acupuncture and massage and different modalities that help us that are natural. Aside from medicine, some people need more intervention and Western medicine, but as much as we can, we try to do natural remedies.
We love Western medicine. I mean, some of our good friends are doctors, so, and they ask me psychic questions.
That's great. I love that.
They'll close the door, and unfortunately, sometimes their patients are waiting. Have you ever wondered what your doctor's up to? He's asking psychic questions at some point.
Or asking what the transits were.
Yeah, that for sure.
Oh my gosh. Do either of you have an interesting experience in nature that,
Okay, I do. I actually do. Okay. So I wasn't always the wonderful person that I am today and the smart person that I am today. As I said, I'm trying to grow. So back in the day, I was a musician. I was coming back from Bridgehampton from a club I had
Like
played in
1980.
1980. Right. It was before I had given up the musician's lifestyle. And I was driving back, and I was behind out in the Hamptons. One of the things people do is they move trees around, giant trees that they spend $10,000 and $20,000 on moving.
It's an affluent community.
Yeah, and they have these giant tree spades. I mean, and there was a giant tree in front of me at the light in Bridgehampton, and I was Mr. Phony New Age guy, and I was like, "Oh, tree, I'm so sorry. There you are. You're in the tree spade, and you've been taken from your home." And I swear, as just the way I'm listening to you right now, I heard in my head, it was an early psychic experience before I accepted the fact that I heard, "I'm okay. It's you I'm worried about." I heard the tree say that to me. And it wasn't a voice. It was just, I knew it came right back at me, because it wasn't what I was thinking. It was far from what I was thinking. I was going into my new age superiority, lying to myself thing. And it burst in like breaking news. I'm okay. It's you I'm worried about. And
It helped you.
it helped me stop. Yeah. It helped me stop the lifestyle.
It really kind of shook you into looking at yourself, some kind of
100%. Yes.
What am I doing that's not okay?
Yes.
Yes. And I never, for 1 second, I just realized it now. I never thought about it. I never thought I didn't hear it. I never was, that's my imagination, because it was that present. And I never thought that the tree was not smarter than me. I knew the tree was smarter than me, because as it said something that sort of had the echo of truth, speaking of echoes. And think about it. When trees are in their ecosystem, they're talking to all, they've done all this study, there's a book and everything. They've all these studies about how the trees communicate. It had nothing to do. It was in a tree spade. It didn't know what the heck was going on. All of a sudden, someone's actually talking to it. And I got the full attention of a giant oak tree, and they're smart, obviously. And it was able to read me in a car behind it from a tree spade. So I I don't think about that enough. Thank you for having us on, because I don't think about that enough. It's
That
important.
That is so important. And I love that you did not second guess that experience at the time, that you knew it was authentic,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I find so many people have had experiences that are maybe like that, or similar to kind of a shocking experience, and they just dismiss it. They just
Oh,
go,
no.
"Oh, if I tell this to anybody, they're gonna think I'm nuts."
Well, as an Aquarius,
You don't care what people think.
people do not understand how little we care about what other people think. When I was 14 years old and I hadn't even gone on a date and no woman was interested in me, I dreamed of Amy, and I saw the purple hair from the back and me massaging her, and I felt the love. That was the thing that was so crazy. I felt love, and I didn't have that in my life. I was with my father, who had divorced my mother, is acrimonious also. So I come into the room, and he's a police sergeant. He's a New York City police sergeant, and he's reading the paper. And I said, "Oh, Dad, I just dreamed about the woman I loved." You go, "What do you know about life?" I was like, "You know what? Screw you. I'm going back to sleep, see if maybe I can find her again." But you can't let other people's experience interfere with your real experience. I mean, I'm not crazy. I heard it say it. What am I going to say? Oh, it's my imagination. And what difference is it if it is? If it's your imagination telling you better straighten up and fly right.
Exactly. It was something that was so meaningful and helpful to you as well.
Yeah.
I came right home and told Amy about it because, we share everything. And the thing is once again, it comes back to that. If you don't grow together, you grow apart. If you're committed to growth, you have to accept the fact that you're not now where you're going to be later, and that you have stuff to learn.
I think that's an enchanted moment, right? I think that's what you're asking. What are these sort of enchanted moment? It's like a revelation of, that changes the course of your life. I think my experiences were maybe a little more gradual because I love to cook and, getting into gradually, understanding food, how to prepare it, natural, seasonal, organic. It's been a process, and I can say I'm really good at it now. And we even wrote a cookbook,
An
But I-
astrology cookbook,
but
astrology-based cookbook
I think
for HarperCollins.
it's also what you become passionate about, right? That connects you to your real self.
It's so funny for me, but I mean, to me, you're the country girl.
Yeah,
Because when I met Amy, even though she had grown up and, been to East Hampton High School and graduated East Hampton High School, I always thought of her as she had that incredible naturalness that people who live in the country have, because they are connected to the seasons and the phases of the moon. The Farmer's Almanac. It's
and when I
not,
was little, we always got food from local farmers, and my parents, we would have yogurt. I'm talking about, the late 50s, early 60s. We would have brown bread, and my mother was a great cook, but,
Sure
she
was.
knew in her way, what was healthy.
and about her Aunt Amy.
Yes.
She was an amazing cook. Amy's family goes back in the northeastern Pennsylvania to before the American Revolution. So they had been in the woods. Her great grandfather was the first vice president of the Central Pennsylvania Lumber Corporation. And they used to buy up mountains worth of hemlock trees for the tannin bark that was used to tan the hides that came in from Buffalo Bill and all the buffalo hunters in the West. That's where the word tanning comes from, is from the tannin in hemlock bark. Once again, nature. But they were going through 40,000 cords of bark a year.
I think we've learned that's not a good thing.
No, we know it's not a good thing now, but what I'm saying is, those pictures.
In those days.
In those days, if you ever see a picture of a river, the log jam, that was from what was going on. They were using those logs, not just for wood, but for the bark was used.
And my grandfather was an artist, and he was also a lumberjack. And all of his paintings are the beautiful mountains and valleys of Pennsylvania. And I grew up around that. That was very natural and he also was a hunter. So many people that live in small towns and live in the country they live off off the animals that I don't like to think about it, but it's just like Native Americans. You use everything that's
Right.
in nature around you.
Well, yeah, that's why the first peoples are so amazing. They used every part of, they killed it and they honored its spirit, and they understood that they were dependent on it. You know, but what's so great about your podcast, first of all, it spun me up like a centrifuge. I haven't thought about that experience for a really long time. I got so excited about it. But that was a transformative experience that I had forgotten.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is something else that, in doing this work, I have heard that from a fair number of people as well, that during our discussions, something like this bubbles up and goes, oh, I forgot about that. And what's so magical about that is you shared it here, and all these people are going to hear it. And you just might spark a memory within somebody else who
Yeah.
then remember a story like that, like, oh, you know what? I kind of forgot about that. I pushed it away because I thought I imagined it. But here's somebody else sharing something similar. Maybe I should look at that again. Maybe I should share that with other people. And the more we do that, how would this, world be if we freely shared these stories of deep, profound relationship with the nature beings around us?
Yeah.
And I think part of forgetting it is because I incorporated it into myself so strongly
Yes.
that I never think of myself, like when I walk by a tree, I never think that it's not conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah. We moved 5 trees here. Someone built a house across the street on land that had been forest for, as long as I'd been here. We immediately moved these big trees to keep our privacy, but I didn't act like I was moving inanimate objects. I acted like, listen, trees, this is what's coming up. And the guys we're using, they know what they're doing. I don't think of any, but I incorporated it, but it made me forget the original experience. I think I believed in trees before then, but
I just reminded me when we built my studio
oh yeah,
in 1987.
yeah.
There we had to move trees to clear, and we did a whole ritual to honor those trees and thank those trees. And we actually, in the foundation, we put crystals in each direction, and we wrote a ritual on the walls.
Yeah, we did
Of course, the carpenters were looking at us a little
yeah,
really funny, but
and we did the ancient 7, walking around to 7 times forwards and 7 times backwards, and we almost fell into the hole, of course. But when the wood came for the foundation of Amy's studio, the carpenters were staring at it. We're like, "What are you looking at?" They said, "We've never seen wood this good come out to the east end of Long Island." It was as if the trees had connections at the lumber yard.
Oh,
And
wow.
and Amy's studio is a consecrated temple. And we did. And there was one tree in particular, I do remember we asked it. We said, "We're really sorry, but we're going to honor you." And Amy's studio is just a magical place.
Also, there was one giant boulder that they had to move, and they started rolling it. They said, "Where do you want it?" And it just rolled into the right spot. And it's such an anchor in our garden. And we're very into stones and crystals, and always have been, and collect wherever we go. We bring home stones and rocks as mementos. And that's another thing that I believe has so much power. I mean, people know about that more now. I'm sure you use that in your feng shui.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, I have my crystals. I have my crystals right here, but I also have just plain old white, gorgeous ovals.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I wanted to say that, a lot of people think that the way we talk about nature is like we can't do anything, but, like taking down trees. And I do hate taking down trees, but sometimes it needs to happen. And like you said, doing it with an acknowledgement of the
Yes,
sentience of the tree,
for
with the
sure.
reverence and respect, and also just sharing your intentions of why or what you're going to do is such an important thing. And like that boulder, even I've had experiences with, I do dowsing, earth energy healing as well. I've had an experience where a client, well, her husband decided to move a boulder from the backyard to the front yard and, did it unconsciously, which is what most people do. Just like I want it here. And the boulder was not happy.
Oh, you don't want that.
Because, it's like, talk to the boulder, tell it what your intentions are. Maybe you want to put it there so that you can see it more, that you can enjoy it more, and maybe find the right spot for it. It just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's really interesting. Yeah, there's consciousness in everything.
There truly is. And once again, it comes back to Einstein saying that everything is energy. If everything's energy, everything's energy. You can't just take a statement like that and not bring it to its logical conclusion. So I think one of the reasons we are so happy is we have taken all this, not just to heart, it's who we are. It's like I was saying, it never occurred to me not to talk to the trees about moving them. I would never do something like that. That would be like somebody coming in and throwing me out of bed, which is not a great idea to do. I'll tell you that right now.
It's the same thing with being aware of animals, like we were talking about pets. You don't just scoop them up.
Oh,
You have to feel where they're at, as individual, their sovereignty. That's basically what it is, sovereignty.
yes, it's all about. That's one of the reasons I think Zane was such a good-looking cat, and because he was treated like he was a real thing with his own being that you don't mess around with. Nobody likes to mess around with.
We had a long-haired tabby, Simba, who passed this past summer, and it was pretty rough. He had a neurological disorder, so he kind of like shook a little, and he walked funny. So he had like so many different nicknames. But he was the king of the castle. It's like Simba was the king.
Right, right.
Totally respect him and what he wanted. It was.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing to watch when you give them sovereignty, and when you're standing there trying to figure out what they're trying to tell you, because you see cats and you see pictures of them, and some of them don't look as smart as the other ones, and what it is they're not being listened to, so they give up. Why should they bother with you if you're not listening to them? And that's why they get that look.
So, I mean, speaking of enchantment and the power when they sleep with you, and I think they can, when you're sick,
They come right over.
they know and they help you heal. And I mean, it's so evident that that's what they're doing and so natural.
I think that's one of the reasons people get pets who live in the city, because when you think about it, this pet is not going to be able to go out, or especially if it's a cat. But
It brings nature inside.
Exactly. It brings nature inside because it's that important.
Yeah. Oh, it is really magical. And yes, whenever I would do, say, a feng shui consultation and somebody lived, say, in an urban place and they did not have plants or pets, the home felt dead. There was just
Yes.
life in it, right?
My father had grown up in a very rough. His father was an alcoholic and he was a cop. And when he retired, he moved out to Arizona. And when I went to see him in the first time, we could tell which was his condo, because that was the one where the gorgeous bougainvillea had been cut away and did not go onto the patio because he didn't want to deal with the leaves or what, you know what I mean? It's like people are afraid of nature are afraid of light.
Yes.
I know, right?
I could speak to you guys for a few more hours, but I just want to see if there's anything else that you would like to share with the viewers here about our connection to nature.
I'd like to share with the viewers that being on your show blew my mind. I mean, you gave me a memory that was so important that I haven't really thought about in so long. It's just, I guess when you're 75, you got a lot of memories, and plus, be aware all the time, because there's magic happening all the time. There really
Well,
is.
it's like they say, read the room. We have to read the outdoors. We have to read what's the message for. You can read the clouds. You can read whatever. We're very into oracles. We've invented a lot of them. And you ask the cards, and I try to make the cards beautiful. And all our messages really are nature-based. The laws of nature, in other words, the cycles. And you put this out, the law of karma, I think, is a law of nature. But yeah, read the room, go out and, think of what the message is for the day.
And be open to people, and remember, people are basically nice. I mean, I'm not saying talk to everybody.
They help them come into the moment by a smile or.
And there's magic happening all the time. But that's what I mean. The universe is talking to you all the time.
Yes. Oh, well, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today with me. I know you guys are so busy with so much going on, and I love following you on Instagram and seeing what you're up to and your thoughts about the astrological transits, Monty.
It's a heavy duty time.
Yeah, yeah. And I would invite those who are watching, listening, if you like this, please share it, comment, please. I'd love to hear your comments, and subscribe. And have a lovely day, everybody.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Comment below, share, and most of all, please hit the subscribe button so that you'll hear when we publish another inspiring episode. You can visit us at luminous-spaces.com for more information on our online courses, retreats, and offerings. Thank you, and have a magical day.